NFL Power Rankings. Vikings continue climb with second-half comeback, but Minnesota rallied from a double-digit deficit to win its fifth straight game and add more fuel to the fire that this is a Super Bowl contender. Throughout the life of this column, I've wrestled with the quality of teams beyond the top 10. My bar has shifted from 10 to 15, but the sentiment remained the same. Lop off the bottom half of this league and start over with the real competitors. This weekend, my thoughts shifted just slightly. I am very much looking forward to this year's playoffs because I think there are prospective number 7 seeds in both conferences that could very easily pull major upsets. The Indianapolis Colts and Miami Dolphins, for example, are both holding on to 10+% chances of reaching the postseason. In the NFC, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers loom just outside of the playoff picture along with the Arizona Cardinals. Over the course of 2024, these teams have been very dangerous in stretches and could be again in the right situation. The Cardinals lost to the Buffalo Bills by a touchdown in the season opener. The Buccaneers beat the Philadelphia Eagles before Philadelphia's 2-month-long win streak. With that in mind, we approach the power rankings with a sunnier disposition in terms of the overall talent pool. While injuries have likely deprived us of a San Francisco 49ers team sneaking from the abyss of the NFC West or the New Orleans Saints balling their way through the NFC South, there's enough of a tripwire to keep us interested. Point 1. Detroit Lions, 11-1. Last week's ranking, number 1. Last week's result, beat Chicago, 23-20. This week, versus Green Bay, I feel like Dan Campbell is both the absolute best and worst coach to have when you accidentally post your team's offensive code words on social media. On one hand, he's saying that it doesn't matter which is cool and it takes the heat off your back. On the other hand, you have one of the league's most mysteriously scary coaches in the NFL. Center Frank Ragnow once told me that what's weird about Campbell is that he's always at the facility. He's always jacked and no one has ever seen him work out. You don't want that guy mad at you. 2. Philadelphia Eagles, 10-2. Last week's ranking, number 2. Last week's result, beat Baltimore, 24-19. This week, versus Carolina, the play of this defensive line has reached an absolute peak, which is a tremendous credit to the back end of Philadelphia's coaching staff, a group who has rounded out Jalen Carter, Milton Williams and Jordan Davis into a gap sound machine that almost takes away the need for a pass rush. Philadelphia has the NFL's third lowest pressure rate anyway. This is the true secret sauce behind Zach Bourne being able to fly freely through the line and pummel Derrick Henry in the backfield. That said, the situational open field tackling from Philadelphia was excellent all round, with Cooper DeJean's Henry takedown sure to be an Eagles scoreboard highlight favorite for years to come. 3. Buffalo Bills, 10-2. Last week's ranking, number 3. Last week's result, versus San Francisco. This week, at Los Angeles Rams, while I think this game looks a lot different if Christian McCaffrey breaks one more tackle early in the second quarter and doesn't get injured, this Bills team can be an absolute gale force wind for opponents to play against once they get rolling. I found myself drawn to Daquan Jones, who had one of his better games of the year, in perfect conditions for his space eater skill set to pay major dividends and open up rushing lanes for targeted pressure on Brock Purdy. 4. Minnesota Vikings, 10-2. Last week's ranking, number 5. Last week's result, beat Arizona, 23-22. This week, versus Atlanta, I went back and watched all of Sam Darnold's sacks, as I'm seeing that bundled into this chorus of uncertainty about the team's bridge quarterback. On 4 of those 5 sacks, there was almost nothing he could do to avoid the pressure. While Darnold definitely missed some throws, I thought he had Trent Sherfield on a deep shot on the play where Aaron Jones fumbled. He's so much more decisive than he used to be and is only getting better. 5. Kansas City Chiefs, 11-1. Last week's ranking, number 4. Last week's result, beat Las Vegas, 19-17. This week, versus Los Angeles Chargers, according to DVOA records, the Chiefs are one of the worst 11-1 teams of modern times. Now, I think most coaches would accept this and move on, But Friday's game against the Las Vegas Raiders brought some very big picture issues with their pass protection into clear focus, as well as the continued inability for Patrick Mahomes and Xavier Worthy to finally hone the deep shot that could absolutely knock out an opponent at a moment's notice. This has the feel of a pared-down Super Bowl 55 season, though it is encouraging to see Noah Gray taking on a bigger role as an overall youth movement takes hold underneath the veteran tentpoles of this roster.